Well, good Monday afternoon, Living Water Church. I'm going to switch things up a little bit because we have a lot of announcements and I want to get through those. But I would ask, even after you get done listening to the announcements, please hang out on this video and listen because I do want to share something with you as a church. So let's just go through real quick just the announcements we have, things that are coming up, things that are going to be coming up in the next couple months. And one of those things is on Friday, the 25th of March, here at 7 p.m., we are going to have a night of worship and prayer. So Friday, the 25th of March, 7 p.m., here at the church. It'll be about an hour and a half long. We're going to be here, just have a time of worshiping together, praising the Lord, praying for a lot of different topics. And Paul Steyer, Lord willing, is going to be involved in that as he leads our prayer group every single Wednesday. And if you guys don't know, every Wednesday here at the church, 7 p.m., there is a prayer group that happens here. And Paul Steyer has been leading that up for, I don't know, the last 8-9 years, something like that. It's been a long time. He's been here faithfully serving, praying for this church, praying for the nation, praying for people's specific concerns. If you guys send me a prayer request or ask me during the week for a prayer request, then generally I'll pass that along to somebody in the prayer group if you guys are okay with that, or I'll do a generic prayer request to them for something that needs prayer. So your prayer requests are being prayed over. This church is being prayed over the nation thanks to their faithful and dedicated prayer service that they have here on Wednesday evenings. We're going to kind of just piggyback on that as a whole church and be here Friday, the 25th, 7 p.m. to do worship and prayer for that night. So the second thing we have coming up is on Tuesday, the 29th. So a couple days after Friday, Tuesday, the 29th, Brandy would like to get a bunch of people together and go see a local concert. So Toby Mac and David Crowder are playing in Hartford, Connecticut on the 29th, which is a Tuesday. That's of March. And if you're interested in that, you can email me and I'll get a list of how many people want to go and we'll figure out how we want to get there. We might do some carpooling. If enough people want to go, maybe we'll snag up a van or something like that. So if you're interested at all, you can email me. My email's in the description below, or it's anthony@livingwater4u.org. So you can email me, anthony@livingwater4u.org. So that's going to be Tuesday, the 29th of March. And then if you guys haven't had a chance to go on and check it out, if you haven't seen it on our Facebook page or our YouTube page or on Slack, if you just haven't had a chance yet, I would highly encourage you guys. Jonathan Duncan put out an episode here on the drip that we do right here at the church, and it is just a powerful and tearjerker, to be completely honest. I've watched it multiple times, and the powerful testimony that he delivers of God's goodness and God's faithfulness and just how God is working in his life has just been so encouraging to me, and it's really asked me the question of what am I still holding back? What have I not given up to God? So if you guys haven't seen it, I know as Jonathan steps into his new role here as creative arts director and worship leader here at the church, I've seen God just continue to grow him and mold him, and in this, you can get a really clear picture of what Jonathan has allowed the Lord to do in his life as he's surrendered to God. So if you haven't checked it out, go to our YouTube channel, go to the playlist for the drip, and check out the one that Jonathan has just placed out here. We're going to put a new episode out every 2 weeks, and if you haven't seen the ones that are already out, we cover some topics that are coming up here at the church, as well as just some cultural issues. So check out the drip, guys, if you haven't already done that. But especially if you haven't seen any of them before, go and check this one out. It's just a powerful testimony of what God has done in Jonathan's life, and really drives us on to more and more complete surrender in our lives to God. So thank you, Jonathan, for your openness, honestness, and boldness in that statement. And what a joy it is to be serving alongside somebody who is just surrendering daily to the Lord, even when it's not easy. To just see that surrender evidenced in someone's life is always encouraging to just be around them. So if you haven't checked it out, go online, check it out. So those are our three main things that I wanted to cover, guys. And then another kind of side topic is we do need some help here at the church in areas of service. So we are looking for some more ushers to serve here at the church, and I can give you more detailed information of what that looks like. Dan Trinchinato leads that usher group up. And really, you're going to come and set up all of our equipment here on Sunday morning, the flags and the signs and all that, and then take it down afterwards, as well as a couple of other odds and ends details. So if you think you can help out with that, please shoot me an email, and I'd love to get you connected with Dan. Dana is always looking for children's workers upstairs. We are growing, thank the Lord. More and more children are coming here and being part of the dock upstairs. So Guys, if you can be involved in any way, maybe even just once a month, please shoot me or Dana an email. And her email is dana@livingwater4u.org. You can email her if you'd like to get involved here at the church with the children's department. And then, guys, we just need some odds and ends help around the church. And we could use some more cleaners. We could use some more people here that are just helping in different kind of various odds and ends areas. So if you just want to be involved around the church, it might be a small little task, or it might be something that you're willing to commit to once or twice or 3 times a month. Please just contact me if you're willing to help in any way, and I'll see what areas are still left open that need some help in there. So guys, an area of service here at the church is not necessarily going to do anything to gain you righteousness or anything to gain you any glory in heaven. But what we do is we surrender to the Lord in service to Him. So we give Him of our first fruits. And when we think of that, often we think of money, or stuff, things, but first fruits of ourselves is sometimes our time, and it might not be an area of service that you're just enamored with. I know I've served in areas here, even at the church before, that are just kind of not really my cup of tea, and I've done it for a season because they needed help. So in that, I would just say, even if it's an area that maybe, like, say with children's church, and you just think, no, I just don't want to do that. I don't want to serve with the kids. I would say give it a 6-month commitment, once a month. That's only 6 times of service. See if the Lord can use you there. And then if it doesn't work out, you can bow out. But I wouldn't shy away from service just because it's something you don't like to do. You don't know what the Lord has for you until you step in and try it out. Also, guys, to serve is just such a fantastic thing because it builds us up. And that's not why we go into it. It's not why we should go into it. Service should not be what I can get out of it, but I know this just from serving. Say when I go into the prison, so many times I go in to serve others, and I'm so encouraged and built up by going in and serving. So I would ask that you guys, if you're not involved in some kind of service here at the church or elsewhere in some other ministry, get involved in service, and it will strengthen you, it will build you up, it will encourage you, and it will grow you in the Lord. So guys, that's what I have for announcements. Those things coming up. We have Jonathan's drip episode, so go watch that. We have the 25th of March, prayer here at the church, 7 p.m. It'll be about an hour and a half. The 29th of March, we have a concert over in Hartford, Connecticut, if you can be involved in that. We're looking for different areas of service. And then the last thing is I'll just let you guys know is this upcoming week, about a week and a half away, myself and Janice and a couple other people from the church here are going to be traveling down to Memphis to one of our sending churches down there, Bellevue Baptist Church, and we're going to be going to our annual missions conference to talk about the church, to share about the church, and just what the Lord's done here to kind of catch up with everybody from down there that most of them I haven't seen in over a year at this point. So we will be away Thursday the 3rd evening until Monday early morning. So Thursday through Monday we will be away. So if you need anything, you can still shoot me a call or a text, but I won't be in the area. Our very own Kobe Schaefer is going to be delivering the message on March 6th. So you could be praying for him. It's also a joy to see what God has done in his life as God has just grown him and adapted him and molded him as he leads our youth group here at the church and leads our Tuesday night Bible study, one of our small groups here at the church, and just see how God has strengthened and grown him over the years. I'm excited. I know I'll be away, but I can't wait to tune in and watch that message on Sunday morning, March 6th. So please be praying for Kobe as he preps for that. And we got to see Topher step up and deliver a message yesterday, and again, just so encouraging to see somebody in the body step forward and even in trepidation, even just not feeling up to the task, to surrender to God and say, God, I know I can't do this, but you can. And it's so biblically based to think that way. Is in our weakness, God is made perfect. In our weakness, his power, God's power, not ours, his power is made perfect. And that's what we saw with Topher yesterday. And guys, I've witnessed this firsthand in my own life. I'm nothing. I can't do what God has called me into, but as I surrender to him, he empowers me to do what he's called me into. And this is the same for each and every one of you. You might think you're not up to a task, but that doesn't mean that God hasn't called you into that task. And just because you don't have the power to do it doesn't mean that he is lacking in the power to do it. He can do any task that he has set you to because he holds all the power. And what we have to do to tap into that power is what we've been learning about in Mark, is surrender to Jesus, surrender to him as the Lord of our lives, submit our lives to him, and tap into that power by prayer. When our wills align with God's will, and if his will is for you to serve in an area, then your will is aligned with his will if you submit to that. And when he aligns When you align to his will, he gives you the power to fulfill the task at hand. So, guys, surrender to Jesus Christ in whatever he calls you into and pray to the Father to empower you in the task that he has called you into. And now we got to see Topher deliver this message from Mark yesterday, and it is a challenging and a tough message. And even after the message was delivered yesterday, I still had some conversations and heard some conversations going around the church of kind of this mixed feeling about this end of the passage. And so I want to just really, really quickly touch on that one more time. And Topher did a great job covering it yesterday, but I really just kind of want to hammer it home even more in depth about what this last passage holds for us as true meaning for our lives, and how for so many years we may have been ingrained in the wrong thinking of this passage. So let's just read it real quick. I'm going to talk about it for just 2 or 3 brief minutes, and then, guys, I would ask that you pray after this and see if the Lord would change your heart about what this passage holds as truth. So in the passage of the widow's offering is what it's called. And whenever you see these passages on your Bible, and if it's probably very difficult for you to see on my Bible in the camera, but you'll see either on the headers or on the side notes that it will talk about some kind of topic. And that's only so we can draw our eye to the area that it's there. But those passages, when it says, beware of the scribes, or when it says the widow's offering, or Jesus foretells the destruction of the temple, those are not part of the original canon. Those have been added in later by whoever transcribed this Bible. And so we have to be very careful to not use those to influence our reading of the text as well. And we can do that so often. So what I want to do today is wipe away the idea that you have in your mind of the widow's offering, because that's not what this passage is about. This passage is not primarily focusing on the widow. This passage really has nothing to do with the widow. She just happens to be involved in this passage. But this is not about her offering. This is about a lesson that Jesus is teaching to his disciples, and it's about the true status of the temple. But let's read it through real quick. We're just going to talk about it for 1 minute. So it says, as he sat down opposite the treasury and watched the people putting money into the offering box, many rich people put in large sums. And a poor widow came and put in 2 small copper coins, which made a penny. And he called his disciples to him and said to them, truly I tell you, this poor widow has put in more than all of those who are contributing to the offering box, for they all contributed out of their abundance. But she, out of her poverty, has put in everything she had, all that she has to live on. And now, you guys can go and research this for yourself, but go back to Deuteronomy 26 and see the basic biblical principle for Israelite tithing. And that was that they would give 10% to the temple, 10% every single year to the temple. They would give 10% again over to the temple for all of the feasts and all of the things that the Lord had called them to do. And then every 3 years, they would give another 10% to the poor and to the needy and to the widows. And that would be broken up and dispersed by the priests to those that were in need. So really, if you break that down, because one offering is every 3 years, we're at 23.5% every year. And now, guys, we can't even hold on to a basic biblical text for principle of tithing here if we're relating that to the old law. If we're relating that to the Israelite law, then really we should be tithing 23.5%. And no one's calling for that anymore. We'll call for a 10% tithe, or we'll call for a 10% giving to the church. But what the New Testament teaches is that you give out of what you've been given. You're to give the first fruits, and you're to give sacrificially. Nowhere in the entire Bible does it call for you to give everything you have. And really, we only see evidence of that one place in the entire Bible, and that's because of the heart attitude of that individual. When Jesus calls the rich young ruler to go and sell all that he has, give it away to the poor, and follow him, because he knows the bind and the hold that that individual has with money in their life. He can see the inner heart of that individual, and he is not calling for you and for me to do likewise. He is not commending this widow in any way, shape, or form for going and giving all that she has to the temple. She needs that money to live on. She needs that money to buy food and sustenance for her body. So now, not only is she poor and destitute and without, she's been led astray by the scribes and the Pharisees and Sadducees, thinking that she has to give that money to the temple to gain some sort of righteousness, to gain some sort of acceptance, to gain some sort of reward or entry into heaven. So now she is utterly bankrupt in relation to spirituality, because that is not what God calls for us to do. And she is utterly bankrupt here on this earth. Jesus makes a note of really capturing that she has given all that she had. This is not some or most. All that she had to live on, she gave to the temple. So this woman walks away in twofold bankruptcy. And what we see is just a few short chapters before is this rich young ruler walks away utterly spiritually bankrupt, but he still has earthly riches. What this widow does is she goes and gives all she has to the temple, and she walks away utterly bankrupt materialistically and spiritually. And that's why it's so awful what these scribes and Pharisees are doing. They're destroying her life here and now, and they're destroying her life for eternity. Because when we read in Romans, and if you remember just 2 weeks ago, we talked about this, and it was all leading up into this fact. There is, in Romans 3, it says this, there is none good, no, not one. No one seeks for God. No one is righteous. No one. Okay, guys? Nobody. It says our mouth is an open grave. It says that we in our very inner nature are depraved, that we actually go and we do the opposite. We think when we read in the Bible that those that are crying out, crucify him about the Lord, we think, look at them and look how evil. But guys, that same depravity lies at the very depths of our heart. And the Bible clarifies it. It says the heart is desperately wicked. Who can know it? So what we see is this underdog. We see this widow go and give all that she has, and we desperately cry out in our inner beings. We say, God, man, look at the faith. Look at the righteousness of this woman. But what we have to do is break that concept out of our minds. We have to break down all that is in this situation and put it aside and read the passage really for what it is. And what this passage shows is that a woman who is just like we are, a woman that is exactly what Romans 3 teaches. A woman who is hostile towards God is taking all that she has and placing it in the temple, and she's placing it in there because she has been lied to by the religious leaders of the day to think that some kind of righteousness is going to be attained by her gift. Now, is it more than those that in percentage-wise than the rich people? Absolutely, and Jesus is teaching about that. What is valuable to us here on earth is not necessarily valuable to the kingdom of heaven, but that is not the entire premise of this. There is a teaching happening here about the depravity of the temple, about the depravity of the religious rulers, and it says that they will receive the greater condemnation. And that's what we have to remember right here, is it says they will receive the greater condemnation. It doesn't say that they will receive no condemnation, or she will receive the lesser punishment in relation to her righteousness or anything. You know, the passage here is so very clear, guys, and we have to. It's even kind of hurting me a little bit to even talk about it, if I'm being really honest. It says they will receive the greater condemnation, but she is still going to receive condemnation because apart from Christ, there is no righteousness. She could go and give all that she has. She could go and pray 100 times a day at the temple. She could go and be the most devout and faithful follower of that religious establishment that there was, and that lady would die and go to hell. Because apart from Christ, there is no hope of redemption. Apart from surrender, there is no hope of redemption. She is going and placing money in an offering box with the Savior of mankind sitting there watching, and yet she does not turn to him. And we don't know a picture of this lady's life afterwards. If while the gospel was spreading and the church was spreading in Jerusalem after the resurrection, if she came to Christ, and we will not know that until the day we're called home to glory. But at the very time of this passage being spoken, she was giving to a religious establishment, not to Christ. She was giving to the lies of the Pharisees and Sadducees, not to Jesus. And we can think, oh man, look at the faith. This is what God calls us to do, to give it all up to God, but it's not what God calls us to do. We are to surrender fully to God, and that's a great picture. It's what God calls us to do, surrender fully to him. But he doesn't call us to be unwise with what he's given to us. He doesn't call us to go to the church and write a check out, here's a blank check, fill it out for whatever it is. This is how much money's in my account, take it all. No, that's not what he calls us to do. You can't buy righteousness. You can't serve at the church to the extent that God's going to accept you into his kingdom. You can't go out and feed the poor. You can't go and minister to the lost. You can't do any of those things in the hopes of gaining righteousness. You gain righteousness by one thing alone, guys. One thing. And listen to this. This is so important. You gain righteousness by surrendering your life to Christ, by turning from your sin and placing your faith and trust in Jesus Christ. Your righteousness then becomes the righteousness of Jesus Christ in your life, and nothing else will gain you righteousness. Now, does God promise rewards in heaven on top of that righteousness? Absolutely, he does, guys, and we should strive for those. And because he's given us righteousness, we should strive to seek out and model Jesus Christ in our lives, to fulfill what he's called us to do in giving to the poor, in helping the needy, in seeking the lost, all those things, in coming to church and serving wherever he calls us to. We should strive to do those things, but not to attain righteousness, guys. Our righteousness is that of Jesus Christ, clothed in the righteousness of the Son, because of our surrendered lives to him, because of the faith, as Ephesians says. It is by grace we have been saved through faith, a free gift of God, not by works, because we would boast and brag about it. So guys, this passage is teaching one thing and one thing alone, in that we are to surrender to Jesus Christ as the Lord of our lives, and we should completely condemn religious establishments that are leading others astray. This is what it's teaching, that the religious establishment was bankrupting this woman in her spiritual sense and in an earthly sense. And guys, she walked away from this interaction not saved by any means. She walked away from this interaction in utter and complete destitution of spirituality and monetarily speaking. So, guys, we have to be so cautious that we don't go down this same road to think that somehow we can attain righteousness by giving, somehow we can attain righteousness by doing. You cannot. The only thing you can attain righteousness is by surrendering to Jesus Christ as the Lord of your life. He says, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. Nobody comes to the Father except through me. And we come to the Father by submitting our lives to Him, repenting and turning from our sins, and accepting in faith the gift that He has given to us. So guys, don't be like the widow. Be like you if you have accepted Jesus Christ into your life. You are as saved today as you ever will be. And then because of that salvation, walk out a life that is pleasing to Jesus Christ, honoring Him in all that you can possibly do, giving to Him of all that you possibly can in the proper way, in the proper time, in the proper season, in what He's called you into because of the righteousness that He's given to you. That's where we stand as Christians, guys. And that's why Galatians 5:1 says, it is for freedom Christ has set us free. Guys, because the righteousness comes from Jesus Christ alone and not from us. So stand firm on that, a firm and steady foundation. Jesus Christ is the rock of our salvation, the perfecter and the finisher. He holds all the cards. He holds all the power. It is all through Him and for Him and by Him, and we will stand on that forevermore until the day that He calls us home to glory. Love you guys.